Alright, hello and welcome back to the part 2 of the Science Fallout MTG Precon. Today we're going to go through all of the artifact cards in this deck, so we got a fair number to get through. But let's not delay, jumping right in. Okay, so first off, got a couple of mana rocks. Here we got Arcane Signet, taps for 1 mana of any color in your commander identity. We got the Talismans. There's Talisman of Creativity, Talismans of Conviction, and the other talisman is the Talisman of Progress, right there. So these three tap for one of the 2 color combinations, so red blue, blue white, and white red here. But when they do, they also deal 1 damage to you, and alternatively, they can tap for 1 colorless. So we got some fairly basic mana ramp opportunities there. Backed up, Solemn Simulacrum is a 4-cost 2/2 creature. Familiar with it, enters the battlefield, then you search your library for a basic land card, put it on the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle your library. Then when it dies, you can draw a card. We got Thought Vessel. This one is kind of important because of the number of card draw cards that are in this deck. You have no maximum hand size, and you can tap it to add 1 colorless to your mana pool. We also have the 2 bobbleheads in this deck, is the Intelligence bobblehead, and the other one is the Endurance bobblehead. So the Endurance bobblehead, it taps for both of them, tap for 1 mana of any color. But the Intelligence bobblehead, you may pay 5 and tap to draw X cards, where X is the number of bobbleheads you control. And then the Endurance, you can pay 3 and tap and have up to X target creatures you control get +1/+0 and indestructible until end of turn, where X is the number of bobbleheads you control as you activate this ability. Activate only as a sorcery. So again, these are the only 2 bobbleheads in this deck. So the maximum that you're going to be able to do is 2 on this. So if you're paying 5 to tap it to draw 2 cards, there's so much more efficient card draw opportunities and ways of drawing cards that are available to you. And as far as this one goes, same deal. You're only going to be able to target 2 creatures with it, giving them +1/+0. Indestructible until end of turn can be helpful, so I would say this is the most useful bobblehead, regardless of how many bobbleheads you have. Of all the bobbleheads that I've seen, I would say this is the one that I would say maybe put it in a deck independently. But I would suggest pulling all the bobbleheads out. Again, putting them in their own deck together. So next, we're going to go into our legendary creatures. The first one here, our legendary artifact creatures, forgive me. First one here, we got Curie Emergent Intelligence. Is a 2-cost blue 1/3. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you may draw cards equal to its base power, which is 1. So base power is regardless of how many counters or equipments or anything on it. It's just going to be equal to this number right here. But it has a secondary ability of pay blue and 1 to exile another non-token artifact creature you control. Curie becomes a copy of the exiled creature, except it has whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, draw cards equal to its base power. So it maintains that ability. You can have it enter as a copy, or you can have it activate this ability to have it become a copy of another creature and increase that base power so that whenever it deals combat damage, you are drawing a lot more cards than just the 1. So that's Curie. Very good card with the card draw if you're running a deck with lots of artifact creatures. Nick Valentine is a 3-cost blue 2/2. When it can't be blocked except by artifact creatures, so that's also useful. Unless you're fighting against another artifact deck. But either way, whenever Nick Valentine or another artifact creature you control dies, you may investigate. And investigation, as we know, is putting a colorless artifact token onto the battlefield that has pay 2 and sacrifice it to draw a card. Or pay 1. No, I was right. Pay 2 and sacrifice it to draw a card. So that's relatively useful. Whenever an artifact creature you control dies, you get to pay some mana and draw a card. That a little bit more situational of card draw than I would like, but I mean, sure, whatever. It works. We got a 4-cost star 5 blue artifact creature here. Oh, that's a non-legendary. That's okay. Robobrain Warmind, whose power and toughness is equal to the number of cards in your hand. Now, with the amount of card draw that is in this deck, that is a good thing. Because if you have the Thought Vessel on field or something else that gives you the ability to just straight up draw cards and not have a maximum hand size, so you don't have to discard down, you can end up getting that creature to a fairly substantial size, possibly, if you get it up there. He also enters the battlefield. You get an amount of energy counters equal to the number of artifact creatures you control. Artifact creatures, not just general creatures. Whenever Robobrain Warmind attacks, you may pay 3 energy, and if you do, draw a card. So there's even a little bit more card draw there. But if you look at the amount of energy that you're gaining, paying 3 energy is very expensive for a card draw, because you aren't gaining a whole lot of energy counters. Despite the fact that this deck is very much rigged around energy counters, and using, whenever Madison Lee here, whenever you cast an artifact spell, you get 1 energy counter. That can be fairly spendy. And here, Madison Lee also has tap, pay 3 to draw a card. So then you're attacking, you're also paying 3 and drawing a card. So in order to activate just these 2 abilities, you need to unless you're getting a crazy high amount of energy counter input from casting other things, then you're going to have to play 6 artifact spells in order to activate just these 2 abilities to draw 2 cards. So the other thing to keep in mind too with these energy counters is that most times creatures that use or cards that use energy counters will also give you some at the moment that they enter the battlefield. So they'll give you enough to trigger its ability once when it enters the battlefield. But if you use those energy counters to do anything else, then you're not going to be able to trigger that thing's ability once until you save up enough energy. This card here in this entire deck is the most regular, consistent source of generating energy counters that there is. Most of the rest of them are enters the battlefield, and they're non-repeatable. There might be 1 or 2 that is repeatable, but for the most part, it's not repeatable. So yeah, you're casting 6 artifact spells in order to be able to draw 2 cards here. So I'm very much not impressed with the energy counters that we've got rolling here on this with this deck. Moving on to the next legendary creature. The Motherlode Excavator is a 5-cost red 5/5. So pretty good mana cost to power balance there. When it enters the battlefield, choose target opponent. You get a number of energy counters equal to the number of non-basic lands that player controls. So again, enters the battlefield, gives you some energy counters. Equal to the number of non-basic lands that player controls. So it's single player, and it's only non-basic lands. So you'll probably get, depending on how late in the game this is, 3 or 4 energy off of that. Whenever it attacks, you may pay 4 energy. When you do, destroy target non-basic land defending player controls, and creatures that player controls without flying can't block this turn. So, first off, you're not guaranteed to generate enough energy counters to fire this ability off if this is how you're using this to generate your energy counters. It's a once-off, hit or miss, depending on how many players you're up against, it's a big if, capital if on that. And 4 to destroy a single non-basic land, that can be very useful, and that can be worth investing in with these energy counters if you're playing against a small number of opponents. If you're playing against a small number of opponents, like let's say you're playing a one-on-one, in a 1v1 land destruction. Yeah, you can afford to invest that into land destruction to slow them down enough. But if you don't, if you're playing against more players, you pull out land destruction and you trigger it once, it's gonna draw table hate. And people are gonna either try and destroy the creature, or by extension be like, he's playing just land destruction, kill him. You know? And so I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. The next legendary creature we have is Paladin Dance Steel Maverick. It's a 3-cost 3/3 white with Vigilance and Lifelink. Exile Paladin Dance Steel Maverick. Each creature you control that's an artifact or a human gains indestructible until end of turn. So it's just sacrifice it. Artifacts and humans gain indestructible. 3-cost. It's a great protection spell. You can fire it off if somebody plays a board wipe on you. You can just sacrifice Paladin Dance and maintain your board state. That's good. Its ability to handle and survive through a board wipe. I like this card. That is good. It's great survivability for this deck. Definitely like having that one in here. Here's the Pridewind Steel Flagship. Is a 6-cost 6/6 vehicle. It has flying, and whenever another non-token artifact enters the battlefield under your control, create a 2/2 white human knight creature token. With this creature gets +2/+2 as long as an artifact entered the battlefield under your control this turn. And it has crew too. So a reminder about vehicles real quick. All vehicles they're just normal artifacts. They are not creatures unless you tap any number of creatures with a total power equal to the crew number. Once those creatures are tapped, then you can say that the Pridewind would become a creature, and you can swing with it and stuff. Now, the fact that whenever another non-token artifact enters the battlefield under your control, you can create these creatures. You only have to tap one of these tokens in order to crew that. And even when it's not a creature, this ability will still go, because it's a triggered ability, not a when this attacks or when it's a creature or anything like that. It's just flat triggered ability. So even if you don't turn it into a creature, it still will do this and generate these creatures, these tokens, and these tokens are each big enough to turn Pridewind into a creature. So Pridewind is good. It gives you that lets you build a little bit wide, get some token generation off of here. Alright, here's the second. This next one is the secondary commander. All these precons have 2 designated commanders. One is the primary, and they have a backup that you can switch it to. The backup commander. Sorry if there's a little bit of glare on this one. Doesn't like it because it's foil. But Liberty Prime Recharged. So Liberty Prime here is a 5-cost white, red, blue. It's an 8/8. It's a 5-cost 8/8. So that's pretty darn good. With Vigilance, Trample, and Haste. Awesome. Whenever Liberty Prime Recharge attacks or blocks, sacrifice it unless you pay 2 energy counters. Okay. So now Liberty Prime can't do anything unless you have the energy counters to use it. But it also can repeatedly generate its own energy counters at a little bit of a price. Pay 2 and tap it. and sacrifice another artifact. You get 2 energy counters and draw a card. So, if you use that, you have to tap Liberty Prime, which means that when you use that ability to generate energy counters, you can't use him. You can't use him to attack, you can't use him to block, and so you only really have this 8/8 every other turn. Unless you're funneling these, the Madison Lee energy counters into using it. But sacrificing an artifact to get 2 energy counters and draw a card, I don't know. I have mixed feelings about it. I feel like we could do so much better and more reliable. This deck doesn't really do much with the graveyard. I mean, sure, we can pay a whole crap ton of energy counters, and there are a couple of instants in here that will bounce things back from the graveyard, but sacrifice is not a primary element of this deck. I don't know. I just feel like this could be a lot more focused and a lot more usable in the right circumstances, which this is not. Here we got Rex Cyberhound. It's a 3-cost blue-white 2/2. Whenever Rex Cyberhound deals combat damage to a player, they mill 2 cards and you get 2 energy counters. Okay, here we go. Here is reliable, repeatable energy counter generation that you can get every turn, provided you can get him through. Mills 2 cards and get 2 energy counters whenever it deals combat damage. I think that's fantastic. Pay 2 energy counters, choose target creature card in a graveyard, exile it with a brain counter on it, activate only as a sorcery. Okay. Rex has all activated abilities of all cards in exile with brain counters on them. Okay. So activated abilities, for those of you who don't know, are abilities that are you pay something to do that, to cause this to happen. Or either you're tapping a creature, or you're paying a mana, or some combination in there, and sacrificing a creature. Anything that you take an action to trigger an ability, or whenever you do something to use an ability, that is an activated ability. A triggered ability is the other kind of ability, and those are things that just happen when certain things happen. So, like, when you attack, when you gain life, when you lose life, when a creature dies, when you sacrifice a creature, when you know what I mean? All of those are triggered abilities. Activated abilities is like this one here. Pay 2 energy counters. That's an activated ability. But then this top one is a triggered ability. So, activated abilities of all creatures that are exiled with brain counters on them. So that can be useful depending on what your opponents have. But situational, and sure, it kind of synergizes with the deck because of energy counters a little bit, but like the deck doesn't focus on this really at all. And this is just this card is just kind of an outlier. It does its own thing. I love the card. I think it's great, and I think it's better than a lot of the cards in this deck for this deck. But this is just me again. I have issues with this deck. Alright, so moving on from the legendaries, and we'll just go through all of the non-legendaries here. We have our expert level safe, which is a 2-cost. When it enters the battlefield, exile the top 2 cards of your library face down. And it has pay 1 and tap. You and target creature each secretly choose the numbers 1, 2, or 3. Then those choices are revealed. If they match, sacrifice expert level safe and put all cards exiled with it into their owner's hands. Otherwise, exile the top card of your library face down. Now, it does say exile the top 2 cards of your library, and it says cards exiled with this card to their owner's hands. So I believe that's just saying that if somebody else takes control of this and it activates and they've milled or they've exiled cards, everybody who has had it and has used it get those cards back into their hand. Kind of a strange form of card draw there, but I mean, okay, sure. So, Plasma Caster is a 2-cost artifact equipment that is red. Equipped creature gets +1/+1. Whenever equipped creature attacks, you get 2 energy counters. Okay. Repeatable. Pay 2 energy counters. Target creature that's blocking equipped creature. Oh, choose target creature that's blocking equipped creature. Flip a coin. If you win the flip, exile the chosen creature. Otherwise, Plasma Caster deals 1 damage to it. And by it, I mean it means that creature. So this I actually really like for this deck. Is one of the few. So whenever it attacks, you just generate energy counters. And situationally, in the event that it becomes blocked, you can trigger this, which will either have a chance to exile it, the blocking creature, or just deal 1 damage to it. I love that because you don't have to use those energy counters. Like it's a situational ability rather than it gets this crazy benefit ability. It's in this situation, this ability is helpful, so therefore it makes sense to spend these energy counters here right now, you know? So, yeah, love that card. Here's another one. Behemoth of Vault 0 is a 6-cost 6/6 with trample. When it enters the battlefield, you get 4 energy counters. When Behemoth of Vault 0 dies, you may pay an additional amount of energy cards or energy counters equal to target non-land permanent mana value. When you do, destroy that permanent. So, I think this is a great card if you're able to generate excess energy counters that you're not using for anything else. These 2 cards in conjunction with each other are fantastic. But if you don't have this card or another card that will generate you a whole bunch of mana or a whole bunch of energy counters really fast, then I don't know about it. But I like that card. I've used it a couple of times, and it managed to work out, sort of. And being a larger number of creature, I actually won the game with it once. The one game that I won, I swung with this guy and managed to knock my opponent out when he only had 2 of his 3 colors of mana, but that's fine. So, moving on from that one, we've got Lightning Greaves is a 2-cost 0 equip. Equipped creature has haste and shroud. Pretty quintessential in almost every single commander deck. Synth Eradicator is a 3-cost red 3/3 with haste. Whenever it attacks, exile the top card of your library. You may get 2 energy card counters. There we go. A little bit more reliable. If you don't, you may play that card this turn. So you can choose to either get energy counters or play that exiled card. And you can tap to pay 3 energy counters to deal 3 damage to any target. I like this card too. We have now had 3 back-to-back that I'm like, okay, this is solid. Or 4, actually, almost, I think. Where we are generating regular and consistent energy counters more than we are using. So, when you're attacking, you're not going to be able to tap it and use that ability. So you're going to attack to generate the energy, or to get a free card, not free cast it, but to play a card, right? Or you can instead tap it, pay 3 to get a little bit of control, burn a target creature, or any target, so planeswalker, battle, anything. Opponent, whatever you're feeling. Whatever's bothering you, whatever's giving you any issues. So that's very useful there. We got T45 Power Armor as a 2-cost equipment. when it enters the battlefield, you get 2 energy counters. Equipped creature gets +3/+3 and doesn't untap during its controller's untap step. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may pay 1 energy counter. If you do, untap equipped creature and then put your choice of a menace, trample, or lifelink counter on it. And it has equip 3. So, I think that that's okay. What bothers me is the untapping. Because if you don't pay that energy counter, then that creature is down for the count until you are able to pay that energy counter. And you can only pay that energy counter on your upkeep. So if on your upkeep you don't have the energy counter for it, left over from the previous turn, then you are going to be out that creature for the entire round. It can't attack, it can't block, it can't tap for its abilities. So it's fairly risky, and it only gives you 2 when it enters the battlefield. And so you'll need to be generating enough and remember to have the wherewithal to keep at least 1 at the end of your turn in order to be able to use that creature on the following turn. So just something to keep in mind. I feel like, in my opinion, that would get pretty annoying. The next card we have is Synth Infiltrator. Is a 5-cost blue 0/0 with Improvise. Improvise is pretty great in this deck because every artifact that you tap will pay for 1 of the mana, colorless mana for the casting the card. Sorry. Its ability, this creature's abilities, you may have Synth Infiltrator enter the battlefield as a copy of any creature on the battlefield except it's a Synth artifact creature in addition to its other types. So you can use this to copy one of your legendary. Let's say you use it to copy your commander here. Boom. This is a copy of Dr. Lee. Except for now, Dr. Lee counts as an artifact creature. So all of these things that only trigger artifact creatures or whatever, now your commander is one of those as well, but it won't count for commander damage. But again, with the 2/3, that's not what that commander is even there for in the first place. So definitely would say this is a great card in this deck to keep all of the non-artifact spells, which we'll get into in the next video, and kind of take them and to make them artifacts, which I do really like. Next up, we have the Brotherhood Vertibird. Is a 3-cost star 4 vehicle with flying. Its power is equal to the number of artifacts you control, so I mentioned that in the previous video. And it has crew 2. So power equal to the number of artifacts you control. That's all that it has. That's it. It doesn't do anything else. All it is it's a creature that is designed to swing. It's just an attacker with flying. And if you build up enough, you can get him fairly high. But I mean, it doesn't have trample. This deck really doesn't have much of a way of giving it trample. It has a little bit of a way of giving it trample, a couple of cards, but nothing reliable. I don't know. I feel like we could have, instead of this, we could have had a card that actually had an ability that contributed to the overall function of the deck. But is what it is. Now we have Mystic Forge, which is a 4-cost non-creature artifact. You may look at the top card of your library at any time. You may cast artifact spells and colorless spells from the top of your library, and you can tap this to pay 1 life to exile the top card of your library. Okay. Decent. That's decent. It gives you basically 1 extra card in your hand as long as it's colorless or an artifact. because it does say artifact spells and colorless spells. It doesn't say colorless artifact spells. So that's good. You can still cast your colored artifact spells from it. And pay 1 life, tap this artifact to exile the top card of your library. That's okay. That's okay. This deck doesn't have a whole lot of excuse me. A whole lot of casting cards from exile. I mean, casting specific cards from exile, sure. But casting cards that were just randomly exiled, not a whole lot. I don't know. The card is what it is. Whole deck is what it is. But anyway, Panharmonicon is a 4-cost artifact here. If an artifact or creature entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. This can be good in this deck with all of the entering the battlefield artifacts, energy counter givers that you have. Because then you'll get twice that many energy counters, so you'll be able to activate those ability twice. Which is good. It's helpful for a 4-cost. I'd say definitely worth having. But again, we need more consistent energy counter creation in this deck in order for energy counters to be really super viable. So next we got the Nuka-Cola vending machine. I have mixed feelings about this card. On the one hand, I think it's awesome. On the other hand, I think it really isn't. But Nuka-Cola vending machine is 3-cost basic or just standard artifact with pay 1 and tap to create a food token. Food tokens, as you know, are artifacts with pay 2 and tap that artifact. Sacrifice this artifact, you gain 3 life. And vending machine also gives you, whenever you sacrifice a food, you create a tapped treasure token, which you can tap and sacrifice for 1 mana of any color. You would think, oh, this is great for land ramp. Or not for land ramp, for mana ramp. But, if you think about it, you're spending 3 life, or 3, mana. Wow, I cannot speak right now. You're spending 3 mana and tapping this artifact, ultimately, to gain 3 life, and get 1 treasure token. I don't know. I feel like unless you have cards like Sam, Loyal Attendant, who has food tokens you control cost 1 less to use their ability. So you're tapping 2 to sacrifice the food token, or you're paying 1 to create the food token, you're paying 1 and tapping it to sacrifice the food token, so you're paying 1 to gain 3 life and get a treasure token back. I feel like that is viable, but this in and of itself could be a lot better, in my opinion. But situationally, that would change. In a deck, like I was saying, with the right cards and the combos, could be a great card, but those are not present in this deck. Camp is a 3-cost fortification. So fortifications are like land equipments. They're equipments that go on lands, not on creatures. Whenever fortified land, so it's fortify is cost is 3. That's its equip cost basically. Whenever fortified land is tapped for mana, put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control. If that creature shares a color with the mana that land produced, create a food token. So, producing a junk token is useful. You know, junk tokens, tap, sacrifice this artifact, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card this turn, activate only as a sorcery. I mean, that could be pretty good. It's only good though. It's a risk because it's only good if you can actually cast that spell, and if you can't, you're just depriving yourself of tools that are not very prolific in this deck just because of the way that it's built. Um, so I feel like we could probably do a bit better than this. Putting the 1/1 counter on the creature though is helpful. But this isn't a 1/1 counter deck, so yeah, I'm not entirely sure what this card is doing in this deck, to be perfectly frank. But there it is. Automated Assembly Line is a 2-cost white artifact. Whenever one or more artifact creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, you get an energy counter. Okay, there we go. There's another consistent energy counter. Pay 3 energy counters and create a tapped 3/3 colorless robot artifact creature token. So there is some of our token generation there. That's good. Pay 3 for a colorless 3/3 artifact creature token. Solid, especially because this one will feed this one. So you pay 3, you get a 3/3 colorless artifact creature token. That whenever that creature deals combat damage, you'll get an energy counter back. So if you can cause that creature to land 3 times, then it's paid for itself, as far as energy goes. So that can pay off there. So I like this one here. So here's another random card. It's a 2-cost called Steel Overseer, 1/1. Tap, put a 1/1 counter on each artifact creature you control. So this isn't a 1/1 counter deck. 1/1 counters don't really factor into this at all, other than this is useful to have because it makes your artifact creatures bigger, but it doesn't synergize with the deck, because there are a lot of creatures in this deck that are not artifact creatures, and so this one, it's not like this will put a 1/1 counter on all of your creatures, you know. This is a hybrid deck here. You've got artifact creatures and you've got non-artifact creatures. And so if it's not strictly an artifact deck, and it's also this deck has really nothing to do with 1/1 counters, I feel like we could have put a card in here that was actually more regularly of benefit. Now, not to say that this card is useless. It definitely functions and will help this deck. To a point. Assaultron Dominator is a 2-cost red 2/2. When it enters the battlefield, you get 2 energy counters. Whenever an artifact creature you control attacks, you may pay 1 energy counter. If you do, put your choice of a 1/1 counter, first strike, or trample counter on that creature. That's okay. That's pretty good. Because this one you can use to give the first strike and the trample. 1/1 counter if you feel like it, sure, whatever. This doesn't trigger on all of your creatures. So you're not getting the full benefit of this because you have a lot of, again, non-creature or non-artifact creatures. But I would say it's okay. For its only being a 2-cost, I think it's solid. If you're willing to expend the energy counters into triggering this ability. It's the allocation of how you spend your energy counters that really dictate this deck and how much energy counters you get. So just saying. Sentrybot is a 5-cost white 2/5 with flash. This spell costs 1 less for each for each creature attacking you. So when it enters the battlefield, you gain 1 energy counter for each creature attacking you. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you may pay 3 energy counters. If you do, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. So there's 3 cards that deal with 1/1 counters. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's all. Now, this card is designed to be used in response to being attacked. So when you're attacked, then you pay the mana, drop it in, gain some energy counters, and then on your turn, you can pay, on the beginning of combat on your turn, you can put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. See? So each creature you control, so that one isn't predicated on your creatures being artifact creatures. That just hits blanket everything. This is a good card to have in this deck. Absolutely agree with that. So now we got a couple last minute mana rocks here, 4 left, almost done. Soul Ring, pay 1 cost, tap, add 2 colorless. Very straightforward, quintessential. Everflowing Chalice is a 0 cost with multi-kicker 2, which means that you can pay 2 as many times as you want when you cast it. Everflowing Chalice enters the battlefield with a charge counter on it for each time it was kicked. So you can pay 2, get 1 counter, pay 4, get 2 counters, so on and so forth. It has tap, add a colorless mana for each charge counter on Everflowing Chalice. So, simple rock. It gets more powerful the more you invest into it when you cast it at the beginning. We have Mind Stone is a 2 cost, tap, add 1 colorless, pay 1 colorless, and tap it to sacrifice it and draw a card. And the last artifact in this deck here is the Wayfarer's Bauble, which is pay 1 colorless to cast it, and then it has an activated ability of pay 2 colorless and tap, sacrifice Wayfarer's Bauble, search your library for a basic land card, put that card onto the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle your library. So those are the artifacts for the Dr. Madison Lee Science Fallout Precon deck. In the next video, we will look at the remaining non-land, non-artifact cards and get into how those play into everything. And then we'll quickly go over the lands per usual and kind of give an analysis and an overview on how the deck overall functions. But until then, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. I'll catch you next time.